Good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the new Big Ten Mafia Show, part of the College Football Mafia. We are the Big West Mafia no longer because, much like the four West Coast teams, we are officially official members of the Big Ten. I'm your host, Sergeant Pickles. With me, as always, is the fantastic Becky Go Huskies. And to usher us in and give us his official blessing as the Grand Poobah of the Big Ten, our good friend Moen. How we doing, everybody?
Good.
Another beautiful day in Big Ten country, as our illustrious friend and guest Big Ten Ted has posted recently. The beautiful Washington State has now joined the Big Ten. And just right off the top of mind, Becky, because you know what I'm going to go on and on about, what immediately strikes you as members of this new conference?
I woke up and it was like Christmas on Friday. Saw the commercial. It was glorious. Getting the attention in Times Square. Pac-12 never did that. NASDAQ, Pac-12 never did that. It's great. It's great. And now we get to irritate all the old ones like Ohio State and Moen here.
Indeed. We've been longtime kind of frenemies with our Big Ten folks because of the Rose Bowl and other things, kind of similarities between our two conferences. But I can only speak for myself. It feels right. It feels like we're where we're supposed to be, all things considered. If the Pac had to die, I think this was where Washington, UCLA, USC, and yes, even Oregon, I do feel like we belong in the Big Ten. Maybe we have to earn our keep over the next few years, but feels good to be home. And with that, cheers to our big conference mates. I don't know what our version of the Syracuse Georgia Tech's going to be, but I'll get you a little Pacific Northwest Rainier beer. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers. I'm having a Cosmic Crisp cider.
That sounds about right.
Why? To celebrate our lost brethren, Wazoo Cougars, who could not join us on this great journey. They created the Cosmic Crisp apple. So.
Goodness gracious. That's kind of like drinking to their demise. I won't go quite that far.
But. I didn't drink to their demise. I just said I still enjoy the stuff that they
pouring one out for the homies.
Pouring one out for the homies, indeed. Except I wouldn't do that on your carpet, but in our minds, we're pouring one out for the homies. Real quick, we got people hopping in, and thank you so much for joining us on our brand new show. Same bat time, same bat channel, but brand new show, and obviously with a bigger focus on the Big Ten at large, with still our West Coast perspective. Timothy Green in here quick as always for another great show. Absolutely. Skaven, yes, popping in. Evening, gentlemen. And question mark, don't know if Becky's on. Becky is busy with, you're busy with softball.
I do play softball. I think I've been on here more than you recently.
Yeah, your attendance has been better than mine of late. I have children. That's my excuse.
I have a dog in softball. Those are my excuses.
It's totally the same.
Nobody can tell. I look like a freaking raccoon here after playing 8 softball games in 3 days.
Becky is rocking the very extremely rare PNW suntan.
Yeah.
So you got to enjoy it while you can.
Yeah.
Jan Holk from Slovenia. Good evening, my friend. Good to see you. Joey C., the Big Mafia Show. Yes, indeed. We are the Big Ten Mafia Show now. We're still West Coasters. We still have our perspective, but we feel like it'd be not doing our duty to give a little more screen time to our new friends in the Big Ten rather than just us West Coast schools. Gerard Jones, your Buckeye, Mr. Moen there in chat, saying, oh, yeah. Bob Swanger, hello, everyone. Good evening. Illini Ted, Big Ten Mafia, Mafia Big Ten, Mafia Big Ten. Indeed, we are the Big Ten Mafia now. Ryan Willie, our best Badger, hello. Hello to our friend. I'm glad to see some of our regulars, but also just good overall Big Ten representation, even some non-Big Ten fans hanging out in chat. So it'll be a lot of fun. And I think over time, hopefully I would love to see one fan at least from every single team in chat. That'd be awesome. You can get some crazy polls going down the road. Alrighty. So my immediate take upon joining the Big Ten, and I did stay up until 9 o'clock Pacific, midnight Eastern. We didn't get the map commercial right away, but Moen, By darn, they finally did it. Those mad fools over at the Big Ten Network. They gave us exactly what we were looking for, and we got the map commercial. And it's probably one of the most glorious things I've ever seen. I saw a lot of SEC fans popping off about how we get on our high horse about the map commercial, or Big Ten fans did. But I think it's unrivaled sports marketing. It's awesome. If you haven't seen still on the old Big West page, I had a full breakdown of all the landmarks inside the little Easter eggs in there for each team. But what do you think, Mo? And you didn't get your Rutgers to Rose Bowl trip. What do you think of the commercial?
I had no complaints, even though it started at the West Coast and ended on the East Coast. But, it gives you a nice trip from Seattle to Los Angeles to Chicago, right to New York City. So I was happy with it. It's like Game of Thrones, only it doesn't suck. So.
Yes, indeed. I saw quite a few jokes I thought were humorous about the transfer portal that you enter to go from LA immediately to Nebraska. You just totally gloss over the entire Rocky Mountains. Indeed, we have gone through the transfer portal and come out the other side as a coast-to-coast conference, but I loved the commercial even when Washington wasn't in it, so you can imagine my absolute joy to see the beautiful purple W and unfortunately the yellow O over our shoulder, but we'll take what we can get in this new Big Ten. I love the map commercial. The first time I see it live on TV, kind of rolling into a game, it's going to be an awesome moment. I'll probably feel just one notch less than how excited I was for both the Sugar Bowl and championship last year. That's how pumped I am for the commercial before my eyes.
Yeah, and we're gonna see that soon because women's soccer starts soon, like in the next week or two.
That's crazy how quick it comes.
So quick, and we're gonna see that commercial like with games. It's gonna be surreal when like one of the 4 West Coast schools steps on the pitch or whatever, and it's like, oh yeah, Big Ten. You see the logo on the field and the commercial. So it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, and thankfully Washington's half decent at both men's and women's soccer, so. Well, hopefully we'll acquit ourselves well in the very first season to start.
Oh yeah, I did. One of the games they showed last Friday for Washington was Washington at Indiana when Indiana was in the top 5 or whatever of soccer and got beat by Washington on the road, like while on the road. So it's gonna be fun.
Yeah,
I
got a question for you guys both. Did you guys watch Big Ten Network? Any of the Big Ten Network coverage of that? On Friday,
I caught it on the YouTube stream, the like hour-long show they did, and then some of the clips. I don't have cable, but fun thing for the new West Coast fans, they're sending out a code for us. We have Big Ten Network Plus free for 1 year, which is awesome.
Yeah,
they're taking care of us already.
I caught the 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock show that they did, mostly because I was camping and I just needed to like. Wait for people to like wake up and stuff. So.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting. Like I said, I waited up till midnight to see if that commercial aired. It didn't air, but it was okay. I just spent an hour waiting to fall asleep watching Illinois beat Michigan. So
yeah,
it was fun to see on the Big Ten Plus feed. You already have Oregon versus Washington national championship and the 1960 Rose Bowl, Minnesota versus Washington. You called it, Mo, and you were dead on. It took them not even 5 minutes, and they're plugging every single old Rose Bowl they can find, which is cool. They're like now part of conference lore. It's almost like the conference championship before that was ever played in its own way. So I quite enjoy it. And obviously I wasn't old enough to see some of those games, and I've only seen replays since. So you get to relive some of the glory days of Washington football and possibly educate ourselves on some of these other teams. Like I remember watching the 2001 Rose Bowl, Washington versus Purdue, as a kid. I barely remember it, but it's crazy to see Purdue in a Rose Bowl. And it's fun to, as much as the Big Ten gets hate from fan bases about, mid teams and you're all, bottom feeders outside of the top teams. I think pretty much all of the teams in this conference have had years where they've been extremely successful. You haven't had teams that are just have never been good ever. They've all had their peaks at certain points, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
It used to be Northwestern. Northwestern used to be the perennial punching bag in the Big Ten. Then 1994, 95, they came back and started bouncing back, and they've actually been a pretty consistent program since.
Yeah, definitely. They put together, 7-8 win seasons, not here, last year before?
Yeah, I think they won 6 last year, 6 or 7, but it was, nobody expected them to win 3, so.
Right. Yeah, a lot of times those, who's overhyped and underhyped, I mean, you get it wrong because the whole point of being underhyped or overhyped is that people have a perception of where they think you are. So, it can come to your detriment in a way, as much as the Pac-12 found out when your top teams start eating each other. I hope that isn't the case in the Big Ten, but it should be an absolutely exciting year. And real quick, we got some more people popping by, some friends. Oh, Greg Swim, our good friend. Hello, congrats on the new show. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Greg. Happy to have you here. I'm glad you're checking out Big Ten land, even though you're, sitting over there in Big 12, doing your thing. But we appreciate you stopping by. Goodness. Tony Lashin, did you guys hear there will be 83 Big Ten women's volleyball games on TV? I did see that today, and I guess I can roll that into I think the Big Ten has done more marketing for both Washington and the West Coast schools in 1 week or even 1 day as the Pac-12 did in a decade. It has been unreal. I see our teams everywhere. They're putting out clips and videos. Yogi Roth is already doing a training camp tour, and he's starting out west. It's everywhere. You see him talked about on the mainstream networks even. And, it's not just because they're coming to the Big Ten, although that's part of it. The Big Ten is actively promoting every single one of their teams in their own way, and it's incredible.
Yeah, like that's what I was saying. Everything that the Big Ten has done to market the new schools, it's more than I've seen. I mean, the Pac-12 marketed the schools, but obviously it's more than like any given season that's happened in years. But it's great to see the level of respect that they're getting. And honestly, I mean, you've got one school literally doing their own marketing campaign, and they're still getting welcomed by the other schools. So it's just kind of nice.
Yeah, Becky Moore obviously is a women's sports advocate and avid watcher. What do you think about specifically the volleyball being put on? Basically, I'd say more than half of conference games, if I'm not mistaken, will be on there.
No, that's great because prior to this, you could only see Pac-12 volleyball on Pac-12 Network, which I didn't even get. So I would have to go to there's a women's sports bar here in Seattle that shows women's sports, and that's where you'd have to go to watch it. I think it's great. Volleyball in the Big Ten is big. Like, it's a big deal. You have a school like Penn State, which won like 109 matches in a row at one point.
Yeah, insane stuff.
Yeah, you have Nebraska, who's constantly good, pulling in 70,000 people or whatever it was for one match last year inside the stadium. So it's a big thing. And Washington, Oregon, USC and UCLA aren't they're not terrible volleyball schools. They're good volleyball schools, especially UCLA. They're great historically. So, even Washington has a national title in volleyball. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm very much looking forward to seeing how many women's soccer and softball and stuff like that pops up on the network, because those are going to be incredible to watch.
Yeah, what struck me in kind of looking through the stuff like this and other Big Ten and Big Ten Plus programming, it feels like the Big Ten Network is what Larry Scott thought the Pac-12 Network was going to be, really emphasizing other sports and, Olympic sports, and that's awesome. But the Pac-12 put the cart before the horse. They didn't get their football and basketball right and get their marketing right, and so they can't promote all these other sports when nobody's watching their platform. The Big Ten specifically said, we got to get our football and basketball right. They set everything in motion, and now they have the breathing room to promote all these other sports. And like you said, they're heavily supported. Nebraska and Iowa, I think they had those outdoor basketball and volleyball games respectively that drew massive crowds. And you can do that kind of stuff when all of your sports and all of your financials are secure. So that's awesome to see. Expedition Greg was there to see Washington, Ohio State 2019 Rose Bowl. I don't want to talk about it. Washington did not play well in that game. It was, I don't recall the final score. I don't believe it was a total demolition, like, FSU Georgia type thing, but I don't think we were ever really in that game to my knowledge. I'd have to refresh.
Ohio State put the brakes on in the second half on that game, if I recall correctly.
Washington was not winning that Rose Bowl. And that was a pretty good Chris Peterson team, but it was unfortunate. Our last few run-ins with the Big Ten are against, aside from the Rutgers and Michigan State out-of-conference games, it's Michigan in the championship, Penn State in a Fiesta Bowl, and Ohio State in a Rose Bowl, and none of them have gone well for the Huskies. I hope we can turn it around, but that's tough sledding when you get to a certain level.
I was there, and I watched the games since then.
Catch it on Big Ten Plus.
Yeah. No, I mean, Washington's – I recorded it, but, Washington, that game specifically, it's a tale of two different games. When Washington, got aggressive, Ohio State didn't have answers. Their starters were still out there when they didn't have answers. So they just – I don't know what the game plan was, just terrible. And then Penn State had Saquon Barkley running around can't even describe that. That was insane. So – I'm looking forward to it. Michigan obviously just whipped us because we forgot how to tackle for roughly 30 minutes. Then the other 30 minutes, they couldn't do anything. So I'm very much interested in seeing how the year goes because all we've ever heard, and this is the big thing, all anybody out west has ever heard is, well, if you played in our conference, you wouldn't have that kind of success. Well, we're about to see. And I'll say this out loud, the Big Ten fans who said that, your programs are going to put their money where their mouth is, because Oregon, Washington, USC are all decently good teams. Oregon is legit. So they're going to play your schedule. Let's see how it goes. That's where I'm at with it. All these years, all we ever heard was you can't play against us. Let's do this. And it's USC has a winning record against every team in the Big Ten. That includes the three that are coming with them. So,
it's easy to talk some smack when you're one of your conference mates is playing the out of conference game and you're kind of just hanging on and talking smack from the background. I'm definitely guilty of it. I had some things to say to Wisconsin fans after losing to the Cougs last year.
Oh no, that was just because we don't even consider the Cougs rivals that well because it's been such a one-sided thing. But that was just funny and it irritated them.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Minnesota fans were on our side with that. Come on.
Yeah, there was some bad officiating in that game. I will just say that.
Well, welcome to the Pac-12.
Yeah. Thankfully, I don't think we brought over any Pac-12 refs.
Well, the Pac-12 had great refs, and then they got hired by the NFL.
Yeah.
Or the Big Ten. I know some of them got hired here also. Any of the good ones, at least.
All the good ones got hired by everybody else.
Yeah, every conference complains about refs, but let's be honest, there are definitely levels to it. And once you see some conferences that can't afford to pay their refs as much, you see the quality diminish. Our good friend Clint Moses, the Beeve, is in the house. We appreciate you. I know it's tough hearing us kind of wax poetic about the Big Ten and being excited to be here, but we appreciate you stopping by, Clint. Greg Swaim talking about grew up a Purdue fan of West Lafayette from 67 to 78. Yeah, there were some good Purdue teams back then. There's definitely some tough football being played, and that's part of the excitement for me, I think, on the season as a whole, even outside of Washington. Kind of like what you're saying, clash of styles, Big Ten, heavy in the trenches, run the ball, play some good defense. Pac-12, sling it all over the yard, offense, skill, push the ball down the field, both on offense and defense, and it's going to be interesting. Obviously, Washington had their hands full with Michigan, but that's a good team at every level. How are they going to play against a Purdue, Northwestern, Illinois, Rutgers, teams that might want to run the ball more? Wisconsin's experimented with going to more of a passing offense, but last year the adjustment maybe didn't go so well. So I think it's going to be a super, super interesting clash of styles. And I actually highlighted, I lost it. but I made a post, and Wild Ute kind of tipped me onto this. He was basically put out his Big 12 version of the 4 non-conference games he thinks are going to most dictate national perception. Because once you're into the conference season, it definitely seems like you're what the national media thinks of you is kind of set because you're just kind of playing each other. And these are the games that I had highlighted as kind of the most important for establishing the reputation of the Big Ten. And I had Texas at Michigan, LSU, USC, Penn State at West Virginia. It's a big rivalry, and West Virginia wants some revenge. And Alabama at Wisconsin. What do you think of my list? And maybe you prefer one of those honorable mentions down below it there.
No, that LSU USC game is huge.
They also play UCLA, but UCLA is not quite there yet.
UCLA is not going to be there, but that game's huge. It's a neutral site. It's in Vegas. I think UCLA is going to Death Valley too, so that'll probably be a night game. Good luck. But yeah, Texas and Michigan, that's a playoff game. Like, that's a preview of the playoff. So that's big. I don't have a problem with this list. I don't think Penn State's breaking in a new offensive coordinator. They might be a lot better than they were last year against West Virginia. But Alabama at Wisconsin, the one thing everybody has said about SEC schools, you never travel to the other teams. You always want to play them at a neutral site. Alabama's going into Madison. So throw that out. You can throw that out. Like, Wisconsin has to prove it. I don't think they're on the level of Alabama, but crazier things happen inside that stadium.
You muted yourself, Pickles.
Apologies, I got some children piping in with their opinions in the background. Moen, what sticks out to you? I would have put something like an Ohio State game on here because you want to see what your conference favorites are doing. But Oregon's best game is against Oregon State, who's going to struggle with the losses they've had. And Ohio State, admittedly, your non-conference is not very good. So what stands out to you on this list?
That's true, but in our defense, we play Texas over the next 2 years. So
very true.
Ohio State does schedule tough out of conference. This is just an off year.
Technically, you had Washington on the schedule.
We did, and
that was a ton of time.
Yeah. Texas at Michigan, I think is going to be huge because that's one of the first games, and we don't know the punishment for Sharon Moore yet. Sharon Moore could be suspended for that game.
Oh, yeah.
Which could be a huge impact. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be a big game already, but then if you're losing your head coach due to suspension, that could certainly play into it and make Texas is already a favorite, even though they're going to Michigan. I think that could be significantly more if Sharon Moore gets pulled from the sidelines. Alabama, Wisconsin, I will tell you this. I've been to Camp Randall. It is not a cakewalk.
No.
They literally can measure it on the seismic scale when they start doing the jump around. That place will be packed. That place will be rocking. I would not take Alabama on that pick. I would take Wisconsin on the points.
Wow. You're picking them straight up.
I'm getting the points,
or just
not straight
the
up. I want the points.
Okay, I see. So you're sort of confident, but not 100% confident in the Badgers. Gotcha. That's fair enough. Real quick, Clint Moses. Yeah, in the past, if USC lost LSU, the rest of the pack was written off. Yeah, that would have killed the season. You would have been okay. You're the fifth conference. You're not going to make the CFP, and it's a shame. I'm glad we got away from the 4-team system, but it came a little too late to save the Pac-12. That's for sure. I guess I was kind of interested in some of these other ones because I was poring over the good old matrix grid helmet logo schedule for some of these non-conference. Obviously, we knew about Cyhawk, but Colorado and Nebraska, old conference game, and I think that'll actually say a lot about both teams because Colorado is going to be the most overhyped team on the planet again, and that's going to draw huge eyeballs. Like, I don't see how it doesn't, partially because people want to watch if Colorado's a train wreck or not, but you got to put up or shut up. And if you can beat Travis Hunter, Deion Sanders, and Shadur Sanders, who are very good, talented individuals, but questionable as a team, that's a good foot for Nebraska and saying, hey, we're finally getting back on track to the team that we thought we were coming into the Big Ten. UNC at Minnesota is a pretty sneaky one. I know UNC obviously doesn't have Drake May anymore, but that's a good opportunity for the Gophers. You're at home. You are getting them early in the season, so I wouldn't say weather's a factor, but that's actually, I think, a pretty genuinely interesting game. A lot of these kind of set the table. That Notre Dame at USC is the last game of the season, so the story's kind of written in a sense, but it is still a huge non-conference, and I think that one could do a lot in terms of maybe one of them making or not making the playoff or even seeding in the playoff. So that's why I included that in my honorable mentions. Going to some – oh, sorry, anything else on the –
Yeah, I was going to say, that Notre Dame USC matchup, that's going to be important too, because that could be one of the last times we see that, one of the last few times we see that,
That's also Notre Dame's last game of the year.
Yeah.
As well as USC's, because Notre Dame's not in a conference. So, Notre Dame is going to steal a playoff spot from one of the other conferences. So, if they're going to do it, that game decide if another school gets in or not, because Notre Dame will probably Notre Dame's loaded this year. I don't know if anybody's paid attention to that. They're absolutely loaded with Riley Leonard at quarterback. So they're going to be good, and USC could be a top 15, top 10 kind of team by then too. So it's going to be an interesting one. Plus, it's in Los Angeles, so the weather's going to be nice.
Yeah, Lincoln Riley can put up points. He's always proven that. So
yeah,
I know. Notre Dame, man, they've been kind of Penn State-ish to me, where they're always good, but just not quite good enough. They're they always have a really solid season, but it's never up to their expectations. So I think them being a true contender, that USC game is going to loom pretty large at the end of the season. We got a super chat here from our good friend, the Badger, Ryan Willie. Wisconsin felt sorry for Wazoo because they were being abandoned. That excuse would work last year, but unfortunately, my friend, you lost to them 2 years in a row, long before the Pac-12 died. So
they knew in advance. They had secret.
Yes, they had the Flugar inside track on Wazoo, and they just wanted to preemptively feel bad for them. That's okay. You can do a little charitable donation there for Madison. We appreciate that here. The Big Ten is known as a kind and charitable conference to others, so I think the Badgers were just doing their good work there. Bucky will beat USC. It's tough. Is that game in LA or at Wisconsin? You're gonna have to straighten that out for us, Ryan. But USC is no slouch, because even if their defense is a little bit better, that's a super dangerous team. They can put up crazy points. They can get into a shootout anytime they want. And if they can play a little bit of defense, they are a dark horse conference contender, in my opinion. They have that potential because they have that level of athletes. What are your general thoughts on the season for USC, Moen, going in? Do you think they can actually take that next step and kind of improve enough to be a contender?
Yeah, they're the antimatter Iowa. They can score on offense, but they have no defense. If they could just even get some kind of semblance of a defense and learn to tackle. I mean, I've never seen a team with worse tackling than USC. If they can just figure out how to wrap a kid up and tackle them, they've always got a puncher's chance, because, I mean, as much as we goof on Lincoln Riley, he just produces Heisman Trophy candidates year after year after year after year.
Yep. Yeah, I've used that to their detriment to say, all the people picking USC for this, that, and the other. It's no, Lincoln wins, he gets Heismans. He doesn't win championships, but that could change. They've certainly invested a lot in totally stealing their crosstown rivals, defensive mastermind. That's certainly all the ingredients you need to really turn it around. Going to some of our friends in chat here, Illini Ted, Yogi, and Ashley, both great additions at Media Days. You guys were spot on. Yeah, absolutely. If you guys did know about Yogi Roth before, he's a young guy. I believe you said he's a Pitt grad, but he's from the East Coast. But he ended up in the Pac-12. What's that?
He's from Pittsburgh.
From Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah.
But he, longtime loyal Pac-12 guy, worked for the network, and he's doing that media tour already. They started at Washington. I believe they just stopped at Oregon. They're going to head to LA soon. But Yogi's awesome. I also saw Husky legend Lincoln Kennedy's going to be doing some studio work for the Big Ten. So you love to see people that were actually good at their job, still be rewarded for being, positive parts of the Pac-12, even after the Pac-12's gone. They deserve to have, big time college football media stuff. So they're going to be great additions. I absolutely agree with you, Ted. The Architects. That's a pretty imposing Morpheus picture, but I like it there, my friend. I cannot wait for the season kickoff with the big additions. Absolutely. I think that first weekend of conference games, all hell is going to break loose because I think the Big Ten will do decently well in the non-conference season. So then it's just a mad scramble to the Big Ten championship. And I do expect Ohio State and Oregon to be there, even as a Husky. I do expect those are the chalk favorites. But I think there might be some anxiety, going down the stretch. I don't think you're going to be easy cruising into the last weekend. Greg Swain, when I was 15, sold popcorn at Notre Dame, Purdue. Quit selling in the third to watch the upset when the Boilers, that down Joe Montana brought the Irish back. Okay, I was making sure my reading comprehension was good. Yeah, Joe Montana for Notre Dame. He, as you can imagine, here in Seattle, being Seahawks fans, we're not too fond of Joe Montana's 49ers either, but there's no doubt he's one of the best to ever do it.
Hey, his son was a Husky, so there's.
Was he? I didn't know that.
He was.
Yeah.
He came here under Sarkisian.
Okay.
And he eventually transferred. He eventually transferred because Browning came in, and Browning was under Peterson.
Yeah. Becky, you and I think, can agree we've had a fairly warm welcome from our Big Ten brethren, other than one particular maize and blue variety, the Wolverines. Our good friend Les Austin Jr. Michigan knocked the snot out of Washington. They shut you down. I'm not getting into the cheating thing. I think Michigan won the game fair and square, put the best dudes on the field. But that was a 7-point game in the fourth, man. That was not decided until late.
I always say this to them.
That's
I'm
all
like,
I'll say.
I like this. Go back and rewatch that game, because if Michael Penix wasn't looking downfield the whole time, they'd have lit Michigan up because they had guys wide open underneath. Michigan totally left guys open underneath purposely. If Washington had just gone underneath, that game's a completely different score. So, also, Rome Odunze running the wrong route while wide open.
Yeah.
Doesn't help either.
That
was kind of like, okay. I was like, they never do that. We're probably screwed. It is what it is.
I don't know, Moen. Have you forgiven us yet for our transgression in the championship game?
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. We lost. If you go back and watch the Ohio State-Michigan game, we lost because we have a guy named Kyle McCord. And that was pretty much it. If we had any other semblance of a quarterback, we probably would have won that game.
That's like the difference between like all these guys and like Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley gets a quarterback. Oh yeah, you're taking over for a Heisman winner. Going to play your first ever game. It's going to be a bowl game. No, I'm going to open the playbook up and just let you light them up. I mean, that kid lit Louisville up. I know it's a bowl game and it's not as important, but God, I don't understand it. Ryan Day just was so conservative all year with that kid. And I'm like, just let him play. Yeah. I mean, I said the same thing. I thought J.J. McCarthy was put in a position where we'll just hand the ball off and we'll run the same tight end route against Iowa because we're going to beat them. But yeah, I don't understand. That's that's the biggest difference between watching Pac-12 play last year and Big Ten play. The quarterback play was like night and day different. And it still is. You think about it, Washington brought in one of the SEC passing leaders from Mississippi State. Dylan Gabriel's down at, what is it? Oregon. He lit it up at Oklahoma. Garbers is at UCLA. He was good. He's, and, USC is always going to produce good quarterbacks because, like Moen said, he's a Heisman factory. So.
Yeah, there is a world where Big Ten becomes the quarterback conference, and I don't think it's totally. Maybe not this year. You got a lot of teams kind of rebuild and reshuffle and some transfers, but traditionally a lot of these schools have produced excellent quarterback talent. So who knows? For a conference known for defense, offensive lines, and running backs, you might become the gunslinger conference in the whole country.
I will say this though, Ryan Day hiring Chip Kelly as offensive coordinator. Genius, because they're going to run the crap out of the ball, and they're going to do all that fast pace. Oregon do. They're going to do all that stuff. It's going to be wild. I don't think he cares about being a head coach. I think he probably is more comfortable as a coordinator. And if you watch Oregon play when Chip Kelly was the offensive coordinator, they were really, really good at running the football, like with good running backs. Like when he took over as, obviously I think Scott Frost. Nebraska fans know him. When he took over as offensive coordinator under Chip Kelly, that's when everything changed. And then obviously when he left and Mariota, that's all, that became what it is. But no, they're going to – I think like Ohio State's offense is going to look like those Pac-12 offenses of like 12, 13, 14 years ago. I think it's just like they're not going to ask their quarterback. Like Moen's like, oh, we had a better quarterback. It's not going to have to do that. Like Chip Kelly's going to have him like read throw. That's how it's going to go. Snap, read throw. End of story.
Yeah. Real quick to Greg Swain, where's Northwestern playing? They're playing in the lacrosse field on the shores of, is it Lake Michigan?
It's Lake Michigan.
It's Lake Michigan.
Okay, I'm sorry.
They're playing, I think, 2 games at Wrigley Field.
Yeah, you guys are at Wrigley, right?
Yeah, we play them at Wrigley.
Who's the other team that's playing at Wrigley?
I don't know.
But yes, they're
a couple games.
Yeah. I just say this. I just want to see a ball get punted or kicked and have that thing go sideways into the lake or off, onto the campus. Like that's what I want to see. I just want to see it. And I mean, they just built those stands too. I don't know if anybody's paid attention to this. They just built those stands in like the last month. It's crazy. I do not want to be a person sitting there.
Illinois is the other Wrigley game.
Don't they always play Illinois at like a neutral site like that? I feel like they've done that before. Wasn't that the game where they had to like?
They're
what was the game where they played at Wrigley, but they were like, we can't use this half of the field? Is that Illinois? Or is that somebody else? You remember that?
I think it was somebody else because I think Illinois and Northwestern have always played in Evanston and Champaign for the most part.
Yeah, Tony Lashon says Illinois the other game. Yep. But yeah, they're going to play at their lacrosse field, otherwise Wrigley, and that'll be certainly very, very interesting. Les Austin Jr., nothing will happen. Moen Schroen will be on the sideline, just like when Michigan beat OSU.
That's look, level 2 violations, guys. Level 2 violations on them.
I'm not a fan of like getting rid of championships and this, that, and the other. Like obviously cheating's bad and there needs to be a punishment. There has to be consequences. This isn't me picking on Michigan. At no point will you ever catch me claiming the Washington Huskies are the 2023 national champions. That is like Bush League fan stuff.
That is
even if they get theirs vacated, no, you don't get to claim the championship.
A former player said that we should claim the national title.
Jordan Reffett, yeah.
I'm like, you're an idiot.
My man. I mean, if you're doing it to troll, fine, but you don't do that.
He was serious. That was so funny with Jordan Reffett. Like, you don't know if he's serious or trolling.
I know. I mean, bless his heart. He was a good Husky and, NFL guy, but come on. That's not the kind of fan you want to be. But yeah, like, I agree, Moen. Like, Michigan has had as much or more turnover than Washington, and I understand they have a very talented depth rosters. They pulled in good transfers, and Sharon Moore was already there. It's not like Jed Fish, but you're still starting over in a sense, They have all the ingredients to be a really good team, but you got to prove it. You got to put it all together. You don't just go from Jim Harbaugh, and it's just like Harbaugh 2.0, because Sharon Moore is a different guy. He is. He got the win at Penn State. That was huge for them. But if he's not on the sideline against Texas, that's huge. I think that actually matters quite a lot.
I don't think it matters. Like,
I don't think so.
Moen, correct me if I'm wrong.
Brand new head coach in an early power conference game.
Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but they were fine without Harbaugh. Like, I don't think it's gonna matter. Like, I would have thought it would have been different without Harbaugh, but he's still going to be able to game plan. He's still going to be able to do things. He's just not going to be allowed to be there, right? Like,
we have to figure out what the punishment is. Nobody knows what the punishment is yet. We've just seen the draft. We just have heard the drips and drabs of the draft of allegations. So
let me say this though: it will not be the death penalty. So let's get that out. Like,
right.
Michigan. I'll say this: like, death penalty may never happen again. Like, may not. but it would take like Michigan doing this every like 2 years, constantly getting caught. Like there's no school administrator who would like the governor would fire a school president or chancellor before that ever happened. So like it's never gonna happen. Like it's just like I think like he's not gonna get a show clause. I think they vacate all. I just think they vacate all the wins. I don't think they. I don't know if they can take the national title away. But I know like they took USC's BCS national title away. So
my one thing that I saw that seems pretty impactful that I thought was plausible. Do you think they receive a bowl ban, including CFP? I think it's possible. I don't know how likely, but that to me doesn't seem out of the realm of something they would hand down.
I just think like because the conference was preemptive last year in doing things, I think it's going to benefit them. Like everybody does this. LSU did it. Arizona State did it, but they said, oh yeah, we're not going to play for 1 year in a bowl game. So if they lose a bowl game, I'll say this. I don't think the Big Ten is going to be happy if Michigan's, you're not allowed to go to a bowl game. Like you're not allowed postseason play when they could be like, they could be technically 13-0. Like that would be, I'm saying they will go 13-0. I'm saying like they're one of the teams that could go 13-0. I don't know if the Big Ten would be very happy about that. Like it'll go to court. I think it would go to court and the NCAA would lose again. So.
Yeah, Illini Ted say it. Oh, sorry. I've kind of wrapped my brain around the Michigan thing, and honestly, I think our friend Les, the Michigan fan, said in chat, like, we don't know what's going to happen. They're going to get lawyers or whatever, and honestly, they might just close it they'll agree behind closed doors that, hey, coach, you're going to do this, this, and this, so your punishment isn't worse. That seems to be how a lot of these things work out. Illinois, Wrigley was played on a half field. They can only go one direction because the end zone went right to the brick wall. They redid Wrigley so they can play both directions now. It's pretty goofy. It's like a one-off thing. I understand they do, the Pinstripe Bowl, etc. But man, putting rectangle field sports in a diamond, it never seems to work out quite well. But
it would have been funny though watching people hit the brick wall. Like 70 years ago, they would have just left that.
Yeah, in the old days, I mean, you're playing on AstroTurf and next to concrete on either side. It was totally different.
Well, I mean, they did that, and it's like, have you seen Oklahoma State's like sideline situation, or even Michigan State's? Like, there's like no space between wall and field, like none.
Yeah. Real quick, I do not have the video available, but if you would like to become a subscriber to the show, as many in our chat have, head on over to the College Football Mafia YouTube page and subscribe. You get access to a bunch of exclusive videos. We've been doing more live chats, and I'm sure those are going as we ramp up close to the season. We'll do more subscriber-only live chats. But our good friend Wild Ute is still doing his analysis Wild Ute University series. He recently did Kansas to the SEC and FSU to the SEC. And whether you agree with his methods and everything, you can mix it up in chat and throw your comments in there. But he has a system. He sticks to it. And the numbers spit out what they spit out. But it's always fascinating. And thank you so much for you for putting those together. But please go head over, become a family member, and get access to all those exclusive videos, and especially going towards the season. As many of our friends have, especially our good friend Shonsky, the classic Big Ten hater, our Coug friend. Hope they vacate some wins just because Dump Truck Harbaugh put that tattoo on his arm. I appreciate that. Making the I saw quite a few edits of Harbaugh showing the tattoo, and they put the little asterisk next to it. I kind of like that stuff because call me bitter as a Seahawk fan against Harbaugh's 49ers, but that guy's so goofy. He's easy to make fun of. I have to admit. Were you a big fan of his, Moen? Did you have some respect?
Well, I was going to say he released a statement with the charges today saying he never cheated, and he wasn't aware.
Oh, did he? Cheating. I missed that.
So I mean, either the guy is saying he's either lying and he was aware of it, or he had no control over his football program, which is lack of institutional control. So I don't know which one's worse.
That would be like the worst thing is lack of institutional control, because that's usually where you get the big penalties.
Yeah, that's the SMU back in the day. Your program's just totally off the rails.
And I mean, like SMU, that was an every year thing. So like it again, not saying, I mean, everybody cheats. Everybody cheats. Don't think your school doesn't cheat. They're cheating some way.
The degree to which you cheat matters a lot.
That's the difference. Like
Michigan's degree was way up there. Like
it's not even the cheating though; it's the cover-up.
In the end, that's the problem. In the end, the problem was they just covered it up rather than just doing what like LSU did. It was like, oh yeah, this Arizona State, this, like everybody, like even Oregon was like, oh yeah, we did that, and Chip Kelly got hit with an show penalty. Like, so
I mean, how many times do you see schools do the self-reporting where we are submitting to the NCAA self-reporting violations because they know that the alternative is really bad? I think what set Michigan aside, I don't know if I believe Harbaugh or not. He's struck me as a pretty straight shooter kind of guy, as quirky as he is, but maybe it's kind of, see no evil, hear no evil kind of thing. You kind of know something's up. You're getting all this crazy intel and scouting, but you don't, as long as you don't explicitly know where it's coming from, you have plausible deniability.
We can say this. We can kill this now because Michigan, if they did steal any of Washington's signs, they were worthless in the national title game because Wazoo had figured them out and they had to change them mid-game.
Yeah.
So, like, they had to throw all of it out. Like, if people didn't know that, like, Washington State figured out UW's hand signals and stuff during the Apple Cup. But when they got to the Apple Cup, they knew to play just as much as Washington did. So Washington realized that and gave all of them right before the title game against Oregon. So if Michigan knew anything, they were thrown away. So
yeah, sign stealing isn't new, but the degree to which is
no. And again, like how Wazoo did it was just watching game tape and there it is. Let's figure, which is legal, perfectly legal.
It's a vast difference from a guy disguised on the sideline at Central Michigan University with video recording sunglasses.
He's out there looking like Moen right now.
Yeah, you got your Google.
This is my new surveillance. I'll put a goatee on and go to the Purdue game and get the Purdue signals.
Stand on the sideline, right?
Yeah.
Love it. We'll dive into this because our friend Timothy Green, I'm sure, is as a classic West Virginia / Penn State hater, as you should be. Question about what we think Penn State's chances are winning the Big Ten. And I'd like to dive into it. We got to introduce a little more conference analysis. I never claim to be an expert. I'm just an idiot in a chair who likes watching football, but we'll give it our best shot. What do you guys think? This is our prediction. I forget who submitted this one, but they only see a one-loss Penn State to Ohio State. What are we thinking about Penn State's season coming up, starting off with that pretty big matchup with West Virginia?
I only see the one loss to Ohio State. That's it.
Really? Wow.
I see 2 losses there.
If they lose a second game, it'd probably be at USC, or as they occasionally do, a little blunt here, they tend to shit the bed in that whiteout, and they're playing a whiteout against Washington. So they tend to do it. Like, I don't know what it is, but if you go back, they tend to just lose that game. So I just don't see them losing a non-conference, and I don't see them, like, the schedule's pretty favorable. The bye after going to USC before they go to Wisconsin. Like, if there was no bye there, I'd be like, okay, this is good. But that stretch after Wisconsin, though, like Wisconsin, Ohio State, and Washington, like, that's their toughest stretch.
Yeah, it's a tough stretch in there, but Moen, go ahead and give your thoughts on. They're giving you the Ohio State loss, but are you? Where does James Franklin is always due for that one weird loss?
That's what I was going to say. There's a James Franklin factor where he will lose a game at USC on a late call. It'll be 4th and 4, and he'll do a run play, and they'll read it and stuff it for a loss. And then he'll be like, at the end of the game, he'll say, "It was the right play." He just won't accept that it's the wrong play. James Franklin does that. There's times he's a great coach, great recruiter, but boy, there are times where he just calls a play where you go, what the hell was that? Like, I mean, like it's like EA Madden stuff type plays, where he'll roll the guy out and have him running and doing circles and trying to throw down field. It's weird. Franklin's a good coach, but he does have his dumbass moments.
I mean, they are at Purdue, Moen. They are.
But that's at noon. That's at
noon right now.
Right.
That can change.
Yeah, that's late enough to get
game. And that becomes a night game, and they're in the top 10, which they probably could be if they lose only to Ohio State. That's the game that they lose.
Our friend Tony Lashin making sure to point out the week before the end of the season, the trap game in Minneapolis against the Gophers there.
Oh yeah, before their vaunted rivalry with Maryland.
Yes, they'll be looking forward to Maryland, no doubt. That rivalry that the Big Ten keeps trying to invent out of nowhere.
I honestly could be the game. Maryland could be the game they lose.
It'll be a good game, but a rivalry, I don't know if it's got that kind of juice.
Nah, I mean they don't have a rival. They're the only school without a protected rival, right?
Unrivaled.
Yeah, they don't have a protected rival yet.
Yeah.
We'll see.
They're just stoked because they're not playing Michigan and Ohio State.
Yeah, that's kind of I don't think there's no easy schedules. I know we kind of parse over these and kind of pick one here and there, but number one, we don't know how these teams are going to shake out. It's way too random, especially in this year. But you got at least 3 to 4 losable games for every team. Not that you will lose them, but I think Ohio State, I could circle 2 or 3 on your schedule and say, yeah, you could trip up because you got some good teams facing you.
Well, let me ask you guys this. If he goes 10-2 again with this schedule,
he'll be in the playoff.
Is he even still there next year?
He'll still be there.
He'll be in the playoff.
At what point are you Penn State going 10-2 all the time is great, but
10-2 will get you into the playoffs.
Oh, will now.
It will.
It will.
And
now.
to be fair to James Franklin, there was a season he should have been in the playoffs. And they got it wrong, and they put Ohio State in instead of a one-loss Penn State Big Ten champion.
Yeah. Wasn't that because Ohio State beat them, though? Is that the year?
No.
That was the year they beat both of them.
Ohio State lost to them that year. That was the only loss in Ohio State's record that year.
Yeah. That was the year.
And then Ohio State absolutely shit the bed against Clemson, 31-0.
So I guess the caveat would be if he goes 10-2, is a playoff at large, and he gets just basically no contest in the first round. If he doesn't even put up a fight and they're knocked out right away, is that good enough? Is that good enough?
I think it is because he's got a huge buyout.
Yeah,
it's massive.
Yeah, as Tony Lashin points out. But Penn State's got money. It's not like they couldn't if they could find the money if they really wanted to.
This is like the talk about. I mean, I'm just presenting it because it's like it's a constantly. Hey, you go 10-2. The thing is like he's set up like what's his name at USC?
Riley.
Riley is the buyout is something like $100 million is what people are saying, which is like USC's got money, but they ain't gonna do that. Like, they'll wait.
They got money, but they're not stupid.
Yeah. Like Penn State. Oh yeah, we can go to the boosters. We'll get the money, but I mean, I'll just be blunt. Nobody's got boosters like A&M who are gonna raise that money in like 24 hours. So
ain't no money like oil money. That's for sure.
Yeah. Like not everybody's got a Phil Knight who's willing to who's at this point willing to sell his soul to win a national title. So
yeah, I thought whoa, okay.
Well, I got really big.
Give our good friend Moen a chance to kind of just air your thoughts. I want to hear from our established Big Ten friend. You don't have to. You can hurt our feelings as Washington fans. Have we annoyed you? UCLA, USC. What are your thoughts on each team? And I want you specifically to leave our good friend the Duckies till last in your assessment. But give us your vibe of all the 4 teams coming in. How do you feel about the fan bases, the teams? Do we fit in the Big Ten? Are we part of the family yet?
Oh, you guys have fan bases? I didn't.
We do.
We do.
Just because everyone in Ohio moves away from Ohio and doesn't stop talking about Ohio after they leave. Yes, we all have fan bases.
I mean, I have met more people. I have met more people from Ohio than when I was in Ohio.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a lovely state. But USC, I'm excited to see what Lincoln Riley does, and also, part of the way terrified, because he put some offenses on there that are just some ungodly offenses. UCLA is UCLA. I'm looking at them like Northwestern. They're going to run there. They're probably going to get some 6-6 seasons. Maybe every so often get a 7-5.
On the hardwood, they could be legit though.
They could if they wanted to, because it's been several years since they were. Washington, I think Washington just reminds me a lot of Wisconsin.
That's fair.
It does. To me, it's like a mirror image of Wisconsin.
Yeah, I mean we're gonna be like we're gonna go rebuild, give it 3 years, boom, like 11 wins. And then
I mean, you guys drink beer in boats, and they drink beer in trucks.
Yeah, I get
do you guys have
though.
do you have any quarter? That's a question I've got for you. Do you guys have any things that you do like the start of the fourth quarter? Is there any kind of tradition in the stadium that?
Something like that, like the whole jump around thing, or what the Mr. Brightside. We do play a lot of grunge. A lot of grunge music. I hope you like Pearl Jam and Nirvana. You're going to hear a ton of it.
Yeah. We sound a siren after the touchdowns. The lead out onto the field's pretty cool.
Yeah, we have the kickoff.
The Husky runs out, and there's purple smoke everywhere. But I don't think there's like a certain time of the game tradition.
Our traditions, our traditions, the purple smoke when the players aren't on the field.
On kickoff, they do this deal.
On kickoff, you got the W, and you just kind of like the Florida State war chant thing.
Most people take their
hat off and do it.
You'll see it.
Yeah, most people take their hat off to do it if you're wearing a hat, and then you do it like that, and you do it in sync with the drum. So
the players will do it with their helmets on the sideline. They'll pump them up and down for the kickoff.
It looks
pretty cool.
It looks amazing when 70 plus thousand people are all doing it at once. It's incredible. But like as far like our biggest tradition is tailgating, and I will say this: if people think we don't know how to tailgate in Seattle, you're wrong, because all we know how to do in Seattle is drink, because it's always cloudy and rainy. So it gets a little wild while tailgating, just a hair. I think last year after the Duck game, I saw a dude dragging around like stuffed ducks from Disneyland, like Donald Duck, with his car, just dragging it.
Yeah, our friend Tony Lashland saying Pickles and Becky would never compare us to Wisconsin because we have too much class.
Also, we've had stadium booze longer.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is a positive.
Had it for like 10 years now. We're good.
I will say, though, genuinely, and Becky can vouch because I don't go to nearly as many games. It's actually been several years since I've been able to go in person. If you're an away fan, as long as you're not being rowdy and kind of a jerk, but if you're like kind of being fun and light-natured, people will invite you onto their boats. They love away fans. They will like hand you a beer, bring you onto the boat, hang out at the sailgating area. Like we're a pretty friendly bunch. It's kind of hard to get under our skin. Even Duck fans were not nice, but we're polite to Duck fans when they come down to the docks.
We are passive aggressive, so we might be talking trash, but you're like, should I be mad?
Talking smack with a smile.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to get used to it in Big Ten country because we're aggressive.
So let's
Well, it's
about the Duckies though. Let's talk about the Duckies real quick. Everybody's favorite marketing campaign, Mon. Well, how do you feel?
And it only took 2 days for our good friend Puddles to make an absolute, forgive the French, ass out of himself by not understanding the traditions of a rival and a conference member and totally just disrespecting them.
So the university did delete this tweet, and I think they apologized to Indiana, but it's not up. They didn't put it up on X, but they definitely apologized for this. That new picture is him standing behind the rock. By the way, he was in Purdue today and Champaign.
Yeah, Illini Ted said that he was in Champaign.
Crazy.
All right, Moen, let her rip. What do you feel about our good friends, the Duckies?
If you come to Ohio State and disrespect Ohio State like that, I don't know who's in the costume, but you're going to get socked. And I don't care who it is. If it's an 80-year-old woman, she's going to sock you. We don't play that shit at Ohio State. You don't go around screwing around. Don't be in Buckeye Grove doing your goofy duck stuff. We don't want that here. Stay away from Columbus. You're not wanted. I don't like you. You're obnoxious. You're annoying. And then there's your fan base who are annoying and obnoxious. So there's only room for one obnoxious and annoying fan base in this conference. It's us. Second question I have for you guys: where's the best place to pee at Washington Stadium? Because as an Ohio State fan, if I go, I've got to pee.
Oh,
So,
that's a Becky question for sure.
The remodel put in a ton of bathrooms. There are a ton of
we're Ohio State fans. We don't use
trough
bathrooms.
urinals. Is that a thing? Did they mention if they rip those out or not?
No, there's I don't know.
I know you don't know, but those are a classic at Seattle sporting venues. You get the horse
I will say this. I know exactly where you can pee if you're ever in Corvallis.
Anywhere?
Pretty much.
No, let's be nice to our Beavs. They're nice. They have a nice stadium.
Yeah. They have a nice stadium. No, as far as Washington goes, I'll say this. I'm like, if you're an Autzen and it's not a water balloon. Can we say that?
Oh, goodness.
Not a water balloon. Or so the rumors go.
My friend Brasker Rascal, Stupid Duck showed up in Lincoln a week ago at Husker Media Days. Yeah, the cutesy act, and I see other Big Ten fans like, oh, the Duck's so funny, quirky. Man, I know we're Washington and we're a rival. It wears off real quick. I promise it does. The goofy Duck, we're kind of quirky thing.
The Duck's not even coming to Seattle. Did you see the video? He ripped off. He put a cross X through the map and then ripped Seattle off. He's like, no, I'm not even going there.
Tony, I'm assuming you like duck hunting, which we will accept, but I promise you do not like the Duck. Wait till he comes to Wisconsin and does push-ups on his stupid board in your stadium. You will hate it. I promise. It takes one game.
It takes one game. I thought people would be annoyed when they put the giant duck in the river at Media Days. I thought that was enough. But apparently people are like, I like that. That's really cool. And then when they started, people were like, oh, we'll take it everywhere.
Yeah. Our Rutgers friend, keep chopping. Moen, can you confirm or deny these allegations before you?
Only if it's Natty Light. Only if it's Natty Light. Otherwise, we won't waste the beer.
I've been to the Horseshoe.
But at Rutgers fans, what did they ever do to you?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter for Ohio State fans. Anybody who comes into Ohio State, like you guys say, we're passive aggressive. Ohio State fans are aggressive. They will.
No, I've been to the Horseshoe. I've been to the Horseshoe. They're really nice. I mean, I was there with a friend who went to Ohio State, so she and I were with her dad's season tickets. We were in Ohio State gear because he was
that's why they were nice.
Yeah, he's like, you're not sitting in my seats unless you're wearing Ohio State gear.
Yeah, that's why they were nice, Becky.
If I wear my purple, but I'm minding my business through Buckeye Grove, I'm still gonna get a lot of hate thrown at me.
You're gonna get shit. You're gonna catch shit. I mean, it's just
as long as I don't get. I don't care what people say, but as long as no one's throwing sucker punches at me,
well, stay away from the frat houses.
Okay.
Fraternity row is definitely someplace you want to avoid because
they
will get rowdy. They'll throw something on you that's not beer.
Yeah, we go to the shoe in 3 seasons from now, so I'll get your survivor's guide to Ohio Stadium.
I mean, I'm heading. You might see me. I'm supposed to go to Happy Valley this year.
Good luck getting out of there. Oh, you're getting an Airbnb, right?
Yeah,
we're gonna get an Airbnb near the
good idea.
But
that's the reason I'm not going to Penn State. If I do go to one this year, I was planning on going to Kinnick to see Iowa. So,
yeah. I mean, what you do is you just stay in the parking lot, get drunk, have a good time, pray. We'll probably be the only purple inside the sea of white. So
I mean, you'll stand out
about wearing white too, just to make it look cool because it's just gonna be cool. So
among Husky fans that do travel quite a lot for games, I know it seems like a lot of them had Happy Valley circled though, so you might see a few,
No, there's a ton of
polka dots in the crowd.
Ton. I think even a lot of the sports media guys, that's the game they want to go to.
Yeah, they got to make sure they fly the whole band out for that game.
I truthfully cannot wait to see Ohio State and Autzen this year. Like, I'm not going down there, but like Autzen fans are.
Yeah.
They
Well,
think they're loud.
speaking of Ohio from the other end, Moen, this is for you. My wife said she's seen pictures of Logan, Ohio, and that it was beautiful. Confirm or deny?
It has its own. It's beautiful in its own way, as the song says.
You
Everything
get the
is
nice
beautiful.
purple
in its own way.
smog from the steel mills or something. Is that what's going on?
If
in
you
Logan?
go to Ohio is like 15 different countries. So kind of every immigrant kind of settled in their own spot here. So we've got like Polish immigrants in Cleveland. So you get lots of Polish cuisine. And then you've got the German village down in Columbus for all your German food cuisine. And then you've got the Kingdom of Hamilton, which is Cincinnati, which is so bizarrely different from the rest of Ohio that it's called the Kingdom of Hamilton.
I don't care what they say. That chili is an abomination and an affront.
I agree
to
with
God.
you. I agree with you.
I'm not with them. So when I was in high school, we convinced my parents. We went to Kings Island in Cincinnati, and we actually drove the entire length of Ohio through Dayton all the way up to Cleveland and went to Cedar Point. So I have seen a good chunk of Ohio, and it is shockingly beautiful, despite what people will tell you about the Midwest. We don't quite have the majestic mountains like we do out here, but it has its own charm. I will agree with you, Moen.
Yeah, where I'm at, there's 100 trees to one person, so it's beautiful.
There you go. Live in the woods and have people leave you alone. Yep. That's the way to go. Our Buckeye friend, Caleb Ramirez. I know this college football show, but are there any other sports other than football or basketball that is very popular for the 4 West Coast people? Speaking for Washington, softball, they're really big into. 2009 national champions, but they go to the tournament all the time. And if you have been paying attention to the Olympics, rowing we are the premier rowing college in the country.
Look, at one point, if we were a country, we would have been 11th in medals.
Just from rowing Olympic medals, because we have people that row at Washington from all over the world. We would have been 11th in the overall medal standings just from Washington rowers. Yeah. We have 28 men's championships and 12 women's championships all time. Washington is probably the most accomplished rowing program in the country.
And we beat the Nazis.
Big Ten has quite a lot of rowing programs. So Washington actually, we host a thing called the Windermere Cup. It's like an invitational out in Seattle every year for rowing. And Washington beat Wisconsin and the Italian national team for the Windermere Cup this year. Yeah. So we take it very seriously. We're very good at soccer. Usually have nationally ranked soccer teams. Baseball, they put a good amount of money into. Becky, trying to think. Oregon's track and field.
Oregon track and field. They're
really
Track
good.
City, USA. Their facilities for track and field, second to none, and that includes other countries. Their facilities are better than most countries. In fact, usually the U.S. track and field trials are in Eugene every year. So they're really good there. USC has the most national titles in baseball.
Yep, 12 national championships. UCLA also has one. They won a baseball championship in 2013, so pretty recent. They have
the most national titles, not just in basketball, but in softball. UCLA does. USC and UCLA are really, really good at water polo.
I want to say gymnastics also for UCLA. Am I mistaken on that?
They haven't won a lot of national titles in UCLA. At UCLA,
I seem to remember them being nationally ranked.
Yeah, they're always ranked really well. But they're really good at it. They haven't won a ton of national titles. Georgia's got 10. Utah has 9. They're not on that level. I think they have 4 or 5 though.
Yeah. But a lot of Olympic sports type thing, traditional Olympic sports we're pretty good at.
Yeah.
And the weather out here is pretty favorable, so we can play, baseball. Unlike the Midwest in the early spring, you'll see kids playing baseball and soccer and stuff. So those tend to be pretty popular out here.
Yeah, we don't play lacrosse. I don't think any of the 4 schools play lacrosse.
Not a big thing.
We have
Sorry, Maryland.
Yeah, Washington, UCLA, and Oregon all have club hockey. We're not going to be joining Big Ten hockey anytime soon.
I think that might come sooner rather than later, because if you think about it, both the LA teams and Washington could use the pro venues in their own state if they needed, or in their own city if they needed to, And Phil Knight has expressed interest in building a upgraded hockey facility on campus for Oregon.
The thing is like most schools estimate it to be between 200 and 300 million to get going. It's not, you know, and that's a lot of money. And Washington, for instance, wants to build. A lot of people want to build a new softball facility for the team, something a little bit better than the current facility, which is not bad, but it's, you know, mostly in the football stadium. But also, by the way, you can go to softball and buy booze. Yes.
Joey Z pointing out, sorry, I missed this one. It just
volleyball.
popped into my head. Beach volleyball and also volleyball up and down the West Coast is big time. So they're hosting Big Ten volleyball media days is like a big thing. Like this is blowing my Pac-12 brain that Big Ten volleyball media days is its own thing that's like widely televised and available. Like that's awesome.
I was saying that at the beginning of the show. Penn State won like 109 matches in a row or some crazy number. Nebraska's got like a ton of national titles. You know, everybody in the Big Ten is really good at volleyball. Minnesota's got a great program. Wisconsin's got an incredible program.
Yeah. Elite volleyball conference all of a sudden.
They're joining a conference that is elite. At times, the Pac-12 has had elite teams, like 4, 5, 6 elite teams, but this is a conference that's going to go about 8 deep. And now they're going to go about 10 to 12 deep. So, like this conference, the national champion will probably come out of this conference, or it'll just be Texas. But
Mo, and this may hurt your soul, but I don't see any of the West Coast schools adding wrestling anytime soon. As big as that is for the Big Ten, it's not as big out here.
It's not as expensive as hockey.
No,
That's true.
Let me say this. Washington, I don't know about the other schools, but Washington, because of Title IX, Washington has more women students than male students. So female, it's like 55-45 split. So because of Title IX, Washington has to have a 55-45 split, women's and men's sports. So it's a little backwards than a lot of schools, but that's how it is. So like wrestling, they would have to figure out, do wrestling. Like hockey would be easy because they could just, you know, replace it. But to do wrestling, they'd have to figure out another women's sport. And since not many teams out west do things like field hockey or women's lacrosse, it gets a little tricky. And I don't know if they could even do wrestling. They had a wrestling program. Washington had a really good wrestling program until Title IX, and it's one of the ones they had to cut. So,
real quick, another
wrestling team.
Women's. Hey, you know, Moen, it's a new world, and you can, if you want to do something, you set your mind to it, you can do whatever you like. And honestly, with all these Big Ten Dilla dollars we got coming in, I think we could manage if we really wanted to. Ryan Willie with another super chat. Thank you so much for your generosity. Greg will be sick of hearing on Wisconsin because it's played after every touchdown. Wisconsin will beat Minnesota by at least touchdowns plural. How are we feeling about that? The Badger Gopher Bowl. Isn't it the Paul Bunyan Axe? Am I getting that trophy right? I gotta educate myself on the old school rivalries of the Big Ten.
My grandfather went to Minnesota. When he was alive? When he was alive, huge Minnesota Golden Gopher fan, like huge fan. He was in school in 1960 when they lost the Rose Bowl to Washington. He would be like, Minnesota's going to roll them by 3 touchdowns. They could probably be 0-100 in their last 100 games, and he would still think that about Wisconsin.
Oh, geez.
No, Wisconsin's winning the Axe this year. I mean, Wisconsin is a better team than Minnesota.
Like Minnesota have a quarterback that's worth a dang. Like
they got Max Brosmer out of FCS.
What happened to the Greek rifle?
He transferred to Rutgers. But that's what Greg keeps telling me. He keeps talking up Max Brosmer, but I was like, you're talking up Athan Clackamanus last year. I mean,
he just copy paste the name and say the same stuff.
I can tell you the Minnesota playbook right now. Handoff, running back.
Run, pass. Run,
handoff,
pass.
Running back, middle. Pass. Throw ball, incomplete, punt.
Yeah.
Let other teams
Minnesota.
score. Do it again. You're down 40. You're still running the freaking football.
The Big Ten now rolls 18 deep, and unfortunately, another team joined the conference that's better at rowing the boat than PJ Fleck, and that would be the Washington Huskies. Sorry about it.
There.
Buckshot Kid, hypothetical, or Ohio State undefeated. Nebraska, Penn State, Nebraska. Why is Nebraska there? Anyways, Nebraska, Penn State, Oregon, only losses to Ohio State. Which of them play for Ohio State in the championship?
I don't think they've released the. Moen, correct us.
No.
I don't think they've released the tiebreaker, right?
I don't think so, but it would probably go to total. If you're saying no out of conference losses,
yeah,
and you're saying they're all one
loss apiece only.
It's going to come down to probably the schedule. They're going to go strength of schedule, and whoever has a better strength of schedule.
That's so arbitrary. Could they do like common opponents or something?
They could, but that's arbitrary too.
Yeah.
Well, I would say margin of victory, common opponent. I get either way, it's arbitrary, but I guess my real question, do you think in the head offices, do they already have this sorted out? It's just not public yet?
No,
or are they still deciding?
I think they would say it if they knew it. I don't, because there's no reason to not say this is what we're going to do in case of a tiebreaker, right? Like, I don't recall anybody, like when the Pac-12
they'll probably decide if that ever happens.
Yeah.
Until then, it's happened before in the Big Ten where until something happens, they don't actually do any. There was one season where Ohio State and Michigan played each other, and it was a tie, and basically they had each Big Ten president vote on who goes to the Rose Bowl. Yeah. So and Ohio State won by one vote, and Michigan's held it against us since.
Well, yeah. I mean, you say that, and it's been 70 years, but Oregon's held a grudge against Washington because of the same situation.
Say it ain't so.
In the 50s, all three teams, Washington, Cal, and Oregon, all finished tied for first place.
Yeah.
After the coin toss, Washington lost, and then it became a vote. Washington, and I say this with all sincerity, because the Cal coach and athletic director hated the Northwest schools, and then I think Montana and Idaho were still in the conference. Hated them, right? Just hated them. They still voted for Cal over Oregon, and Oregon's like hated us ever since. Like that's where the true hate came from. Like bad. And then they got really mad when we kicked them out of the conference and reformed it. So
thankfully we have reached a relatively stable conference. I don't believe the Big Ten has ever lost a member. That's a good feeling in my heart. I feel
no, they've lost a member. Chicago.
We've had members leave.
Voluntary exit, I would say.
Yeah.
No,
right.
I can only. I looked this up. Only one team has ever been kicked out of their conference. One. And that was the Big East did it to Temple. But Temple had been in the conference for a decade and done nothing. Like they were constantly like Moen remembers this. If you had Temple on your schedule, you're like, okay, we're gonna win by 60. They were bad. Like bad.
Yeah.
Like, they're still terrible, but they were in the Big East from like 1991. I think they came in around the same time as Miami and like Virginia Tech and that, and then they kicked them out by like 2001.
Nick M saying nobody in the pack hated everyone else. It was all love. Wilner and Canzano said so. Right. If Wilner and Canzano said it, it must be so.
Well, no. See, the thing is like we all hated individual schools. We didn't do that whole Pac-12. That was stupid. The SEC does that. That's dumb. But like I keep hearing Big 12 fans doing that now. Big 12, I get it. You're the underdogs against the P2, but I'm not. I'm sorry. I can't be like Vanderbilt fans who go, Alabama won the national title. You guys haven't won a game in like 5 years. It's worth a damn.
I'll cheer for every Big Ten member not named Ohio State, Michigan, or Oregon, or USC. I think they all get excluded. I mean, let's be honest. Oregon, obviously. The other three, you have won so many championships. I don't really care if you win another one. Penn State's marginal. All the other schools, I'd be like, thumbs up.
Penn State has two national titles. Why are they even in that conversation? They have as many national titles as we do.
Basketball's different. And
ours is more
current. That's a different discussion.
Than the last one.
Yeah. Our Rutgers friend keep chopping our previous discussion. Penn State fans are really chill, though.
No, they're really chill to Rutgers because they get the shit out of Rutgers.
You're not coming in there.
All right, I've been to a whiteout game at Penn State. They are not chill.
Moen, were they just reciprocating the energy given, Moen? Let's be honest.
They were reciprocating saliva as you get spat on.
Yeah, that sounds unhygienic.
I also feel like they saw the Moen Hawk and were like,
polite pass on that.
We can't do that.
Yeah, Tony Malashton saying I'd feel very secure in Minneapolis thinking I'm a Vikings fan. Perhaps, but I see the second I throw on my Seahawks jersey, I'm pretty sure I'm getting stuff thrown on me because Minnesota's got nightmares of the Seahawks coming to town and playing in the University of Minnesota Stadium, the infamous Blair Walsh missed kick. Sorry to remind you of that, Tony, but
which is still a great meme when it's the video game.
It is.
No, I've
heard the majority of Big Ten, fan bases are friendly. If you're kind of a neutral, like Washington, I don't think we're not like puffing our chest out and walking all over the place.
No, we're not pulling in Oregon and going, we're going to win the conference and blah. We're always going to be at the top and blah blah blah
no.
blah.
We're not making a total butt out of ourselves.
I was going to say, outside of like the 3 Minnesota fans from Greg's show, and that includes Greg, does Minnesota actually have fans? Because the stadium looks rather empty by the third quarter. Wow.
Row that boat straight to the parking lot by the third quarter.
Look, Moen's not saying anything because he knows we're right.
Yeah, listen, PJ Fleck is a disciple of Jim Tressel. I know a lot about Jim Tressel. I had to watch him coach here for years. It is run, pass.
What was his position under?
He was an assistant. He was
like
he wasn't like an assistant offensive coordinator or anything, but that's what part of the reason why Fleck and Fleck and Luke Fickell hate each other.
Other I did not know that.
Under Jim Tressel.
Interesting.
So, yeah. So
that adds a wrinkle to the rivalry.
That adds a wrinkle to that rivalry. There's a lot of hate between those two. Like Fickell did not like Fleck.
Nice. On a similar vein, Heartbreak 25. No one hated Oregon in the pack. No, everyone hated.
Everybody hates Oregon in the pack. They still hate Oregon in the pack.
Oregon, like post like 2000, pre-2000, they were just Oregon, right? Once they started getting Phil Knight money and doing more marketing than winning football, people started to really dislike them, and they're still on that shtick.
And before you get angry that Oregon's throwing around all this NIL money right now,
they've always been doing it.
Look at your college team and ask me what jersey they're wearing. Does it have a swoosh? Does it have a jump man? I wonder how Oregon's getting all this NIL money. Oh, yeah, you guys are paying for it. Phil Knight's really not. It's coming from Nike. Most people only know this. Most people who work at Nike graduated from Oregon. It's not just Phil Knight.
Yes, and along the same boat, I saw this come in a flurry as Moen was talking about it. I didn't start hating Oregon until last week. It doesn't take long, Bob. Absolutely.
Moen found out about Oregon last night. I watched the show. He and Rod
already hated Oregon.
Hard.
Rutgers fans will put out a hit on the duck. Yeah, I heard multiple people like talking about the inflatable river duck. They're like, oh, it's so cool and funny. And like, not even a week later, almost every fan base is like, I hate that duck. I'm going to drown him. Like, it doesn't take long for Oregon's, song and dance to kind of wear off.
I don't understand the hate for the inflatable duck. I liked it. I thought it was hilarious. And
it's a step up from their New York Times Bo Nix for Heisman billboard.
It's not even the worst one. Like Times Square, Joey Harrington 20 years ago.
It's gaudy. It was garish. It's like, look at us.
Oh no,
it's Big Ten media days, not Oregon media days.
Yeah. The other three, we walked in there like we had some class. We're invited to the party. We're not making a big song and dance about the entrance. But no, there's always one. There's always the guy wearing the Dumb and Dumber bright orange, bright blue suits to the party. That's Oregon with their fancy uniforms.
Right. I thought the duck took away from everybody else at media days.
It did, and that's their goal.
That's the whole point.
That's the whole point.
Love or hate them, you're talking about them.
Their marketing team, second to none in college football. Oregon is a school in a state with 3.5 million people. they're just not going to draw a ton of eyeballs, right? But they'll average like 4 million viewers a game.
Mo, and I'll let you have this one. This will be
Bullshit.
kind of our wrap up.
This is bullshit. No, they are not that school out west, no matter how much they want to be called that. I can't believe this is an Ohio State fan. I got to stick up for Michigan here. Michigan's called that team up north because they deserve to be called that team up north. They have national championships out the wazoo. They have historic names that, you put on there that, Tom Brady, greatest of all time in the NFL.
Jim Harbaugh.
Jim Harbaugh. Oregon does not have that. I'm sorry. You don't have any national championships. You do not have any Heisman Trophy winners that are, you got one, Marcus Mariota. Any Heisman Trophy winners that are discussed with hushed whispers like Michigan does. It's just, no. Look, you guys are not Michigan. Stop trying to paint yourself as Michigan.
Moen, if there is a team out west, which one is it? I think we all know this answer.
It's USC.
It would be USC.
It's USC. Yeah. With their 8 Heisman,
even Washington fans,
9 national titles or whatever. God.
Yeah, it's not even us. It's USC, and we're okay with that.
Well, like a couple Husky fans were like, "We should make USC our rival." I'm like, "Why are they our rival?" Like, we were like the number 2 team in the conference. We knew that. Like, we would beat them when we needed to.
Yeah. And
when we beat them, it's usually a historic beating. Like the 0-12 team, that's their first victory in like 15 games, beating USC. Yeah. But
Blaze Bunny makes a good point. Oregon projects their insecurities. It's pretty cringe. Ask any Oregon fan about anything that happened before about 1995, and they're either not old enough to tell you or they just won't.
No, I mean, like, we can get into the whole, like, I try to stay neutral on the show when it comes to Oregon, but there are just certain things that Oregon you can't be neutral about. Right, they're not the team out west. They want to be that team out west. They want to be the greatest. And I'm sorry, like somebody said, I don't remember who it was. Andy Staples, I think, said they would be a blue blood if they won a national title.
No, they wouldn't.
No.
I was like,
not even close.
Miami did what Oregon's been trying to do for 30 years. Miami did in less than a decade. Like Miami, people don't know this, don't remember this. Miami was going to scrap their football program. They couldn't win more than 2 games. They hire what's his face?
Schnellenberger. Howard Schnellenberger.
Done. Then they go get Jimmy Johnson, grab Dennis Erickson from like Idaho. Everything just carries on. They're like, yeah, we're good.
And they won 5 national championships. Yeah, guys, 5.
They've got 5, and they did it.
How many Oregon's won?
Yeah. By the way, they did that in the same 25-year span that Oregon's been trying to do it now. Like, if they're Florida State would be a blue blood. They've got 3. Like, I don't know where else to begin. Like, it's the only thing that kills me about Oregon fans is they put themselves on a pedestal. They write checks their team never cashes, and then they still talk trash. I just haven't engaged it because I'm like, you haven't beaten us in over 1,000 days.
Yeah,
I can't. You lost the 3 biggest games to Washington, and all I heard after the game against Washington in Seattle last year was, we will beat you if we play you on a neutral site because Josh Pate's poll said so.
Yeah, Josh Pate loves him some Oregon. I will do something unprecedented. I will stand up for Oregon. However, to our new Big Ten friends, find an Oregon fan who is over the age of 40, who has been an Oregon fan his whole life.
Thanks that. Yeah.
And they will be super chill and cool to talk to. You have to have lived through really terrible times for your program to have any appreciation for what success looks like. I got to say, Mo, and there are some younger Ohio State fans that have been living a little too good, in my opinion. They don't know what it's like to suffer.
Right, but you really have to go back to the John Cooper years. And even then, it wasn't bad. He just couldn't beat Michigan or win a bowl game. I mean, it was still 10-win seasons. I mean,
true.
Very Penn State program consistency. Ohio State is probably right up there.
Yes, but you got to struggle a little to enjoy success. That's my opinion.
Does Ohio State have a program like Oregon, or like not Ohio State, but does the Big Ten have a program like Oregon that was already in the Big Ten? Like
that hasn't won, but
Yeah.
thinks they're like some
Michigan was for a while.
Mhm.
Michigan would, now that they've had some success recently, they've gone back to their arrogant self. But there was a time where Michigan was unbearable.
But they still had historic wins at the very least.
They did. They had historic
they
ones.
still had like the national titles from like the leather football era, but
Yeah.
it's all they really had.
Their last outright title was 1948.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
this year, and this past year.
And then well, until this year, but yeah, no, and like because they had the national title in '97. That was the only other one since '48.
Yeah, it was a split national championship.
Which
that year.
I still think that Michigan team beats that Nebraska squad. I'm sorry. Sorry, Nebraska fans. I really think that was a good team. Also, they had some guy named Tom Brady.
Yeah.
I had to say this to a Michigan fan. I was like, you do know he wasn't the starting quarterback, right? Like, yes, reps.
Yeah, blue blood is very arbitrary, but yeah, I think blue blood, the whole thing is winning in multiple eras, multiple decades, and having a long history of success. And Blaze Bunny Hair's opinion, Georgia, LSU, and Florida are not even blue bloods. It's arbitrary, but I think, at least by my definition, there's only about 6 or 7 of them. It's not a lot.
No.
And some of them in the modern era, like Nebraska and Notre Dame, are on dangerous footing of losing it.
Notre Dame's never going to lose it. Like, as much as I think Notre Dame sucks, I don't like Notre Dame. But I'm like, as much as Notre Dame sucks, they have all these. They have a ton of Heismans. They haven't done anything since 1988, obviously, but they still. By the way, Notre Dame, I think, has played for as many national titles as Oregon has in the last 15 years. Or they've been to the playoff more than Oregon has, at least. So, but they don't have a conference. So,
right.
As much as I think Nebraska is closer to losing it than anybody because they've done nothing since Ndamukong Suh was there, and even when Ndamukong Suh was there, they still didn't do anything because they couldn't beat Texas. So
yeah,
which that was a good Texas team. Not to write them off. That was a very good Texas team that probably beats Alabama for the national title. What's his name? I don't remember his name.
Colt
still
McCoy.
plays. Colt McCoy. Yeah, he's still in the NFL, which is wild. Had he not got hurt in that game, I think they beat him.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are getting down to it. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Becky, what is your one for the road? It can be random, can be about the Big Ten as a whole, Washington. Have at it. What is your thoughts for the week?
It's great to be in a new conference. Let me just say, I know people are going to hate Oregon. You're going to hate them. But you're really, when USC is really good, you're going to hate USC. Forget Oregon. Yeah. They are Oregon. Trust. When USC is really good, you're going to hear all about how good they are. If UCLA ever gets their crap together, trust me, I think they're going to. I think Sean Foster's the right hire. You're going to hear about them. And if you're not a fan of basketball, if you beat UCLA, all you're going to hear is, and I'll say this, you ain't got 11 national titles. So, there you go.
Very Ohio State-ish in that way.
Very. But
you don't have that many natties.
Real quick, Oregon plays at Purdue on a Friday night.
Yep.
Watch that game.
Spoiler makers, I'm manifesting the good juju there in West Lafayette. Moen, what is your one for the road?
I think that Wisconsin is going to be the surprise team out of the Big Ten this year.
Okay.
I think that's a team to watch out for. Rutgers as well. I think Rutgers, if Athan Clackamanus can manage to throw and complete 50% of his passes this year, I think that's a team to watch out for.
You think they're going to throw the football this year, Moen?
Oh, no, I don't. I think they're going to keep that running back running. But, at some point, you have to get that kid on the sidelines to get some oxygen. So,
we all this tonight, we didn't even say one thing about Iowa, other than
Iowa too.
If Iowa has a slight offensive improvement, I think they will. If that defense is elite enough, they could make they're my sleeper pick to sneak into the playoff.
They could
do it.
I could see it.
They could sneak into the Big 12 or the Big 10 title game and get their 12th win. It would be stupid, crazy, because they couldn't score on Michigan, and then this year they could turn around. I think they could score 30 a game. I think they're going to score 30 a game.
Interesting.
I don't think they're going to go. I'm not going to go that far. I think
that's a little too bold. I think.
Not 30 a game.
Let's start with cracking the 20s, and then we can chat.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, their schedule's favorable to it.
Yeah.
I think the Iowa State game is the only one that might really, that game is. Yeah.
It'll be interesting. On a similar vein, you kind of sparked my my thought, Mo, in there. Week 5, I think, looms large. Washington at Rutgers. I think that game will tell us a lot about both teams. Washington does play Northwestern at home, but, friendly environment, first Big Ten game. Northwestern won't be a pushover, but I think you'd consider Washington a favorite. First real road test all the way across the country. I think that's an underrated game that could have really big implications for how both team seasons go. My one for the road, kind of start how we all kick this off. I'm so excited to be in the Big Ten. We've poured one out for our Pac-12 brethren. We've brought a lot of them along with us, even if we don't want one of them here, but I digress. I'm just excited to be in the conference, and I will raise one up and cheers the Big Ten. So thank you to you, Moen, for having it. We kind of like it here.
Well, hold on. You got some breaking news, Becky?
Yeah, there's an article out about the NIL at Oregon.
Oh, gosh. Should we touch on it as our last one?
Brent Hubbs, I'll put it in the chat. It's just a snippet, but I'm gonna find the article, but I'm gonna send it to you guys. You guys can see it's just a quick snippet. Read it real quick. This is something we got to talk about real quick, because if this is true, it is every single person has said. This is just a snippet from the the Sports Illustrated article.
Give us the 5 minutes or less version.
Basically saying that the money's pretty even when it comes down to where you're comfortable. So you got to recruit them, right? Oregon's learning that. Oregon just kind of thought, all right, we'll just buy us a class. Essentially says, well, they have the funds, but they don't have the relationship with the athletes.
Huh. Interesting.
This is an SI article, and it's from On3's Brent Hubbs. So Brent Hubbs said that, who is what Husky fans think is a homer for Oregon.
Most of the media are, in our opinion.
So, basically, he went after the coaching staff. Hub went after the coaching staff.
Interesting.
If he says, and I'll just go quote, he goes, so at some point it comes back to old school recruiting and your relationships, and you've got to work at it. Everybody's got a plan for NIL, but you still have to recruit. So Oregon's doing.
Well,
we didn't talk about it, but Oregon's NIL outside of Phil Knight, they probably don't have an NIL. I think Moen said it last night on the show. What do you think they're at? 30 million?
I think they're probably north of 30, and I can say that based on the fact that I think Ohio State is north of 26.
Well, they said said Ohio State was at 20 million. I remember there was an article. I don't remember who it was, but they broke down the NIL, and they had Oregon at 10 or 11 million. Washington, for instance, was at 9.5.
Washington, I've heard, is anywhere upwards of 12 total, but it's nothing like what these.
It's nothing crazy because they're just they just had to get guys in, but next year they're gonna up it. But 30 million, they tripled that thing in a couple of months, and if you look at this, it makes sense. But I mean, It's not like Dan Lanning isn't a great recruiter. He recruited at Georgia, for God's sakes, and he recruited at Alabama. So the guy can recruit, and he has Tosh LaFoy on staff. Husky fans know this. Washington fans will say this. We got the number one player in California, and one of the highest rated California players of all time, Shaq Thompson. The recruiter was Tosh LaFoy.
Yeah.
Like if this stuff is true, we'll have to read the article. I may have to talk about it next week, but this is a big thing. Like they're attacking, basically saying like there's a disconnect. The money's talking, coaches are.
Yeah.
That would be different. I think who is it? Ryan Day said something different, didn't he? Moen, didn't he say they don't even talk NIL money? Or no, it's Sarkisian. Sarkisian said we don't even talk about money, like until you're on campus.
Maybe publicly they admit that, but
yeah, but
that is definitely interesting. I think maybe we'll marinate on that one a week because I'm sure all the talking heads and the SEC folks will get a hold of that one and do what they will. But I'm honestly just waiting, and NIL's got to have some guardrails put on it. Not just because I'm a salty Husky fan and Oregon's spending all this money, but like it's just not sustainable to run a collection of teams and conferences like this. You know, you got to have some limiting factors, even though there's obviously inequality in the conference. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. Honestly, I'm super excited for the season. We got a lot of awesome games coming up, and College Football Mafia, we got all of our normal shows. You got our Wednesday show, got our Big Freaking Friday show, Mowing After Dark coming at you Sunday nights. I'm sure once we get to the season, you'll be recapping all the awesome weekend action. Mm-hmm. Looking forward to that. Appreciate everyone so much for joining us for our annual first ever rebranded, redone Big Ten Mafia Show, part of the College Football Mafia. From myself, Becky, Moen, and everyone here at the College Football Mafia, thank you so much. We will see you next week. Peace out, everybody.